In this class, it is not much about giving you new idea of electrostatics, but rather to use whatever that we have learned in our last few lectures for some applications. So you will begin, before we start with the application, we will begin by discussing a little bit about nature of matter. A particular type of matter that we are going to study is called dielectric. A common word for dielectric is an insulator. The word insulator suits this material because at room temperature there are no free electrons available in the insulator, so that there is no easy way of enforcing a current through this and for making the current flow through this material. Insulator, and that is why they are insulators. In contrast to insulator, we have conductors. Conductors have a lot of free electrons that in their valence shell or no often atom are not really filled, and therefore there is a lot of free electrons available. In fact, energy band of the conductance and covalence band actually sort of overlap each other, with the next result that even a small amount of push by an electric field is sufficient for the electrons to travel to the consist a current. Okay, so that is why metals are very good conductors of electricity. And then there is a class of material which actually falls between insulators and metal, which are called semiconductor. However, we will not discuss semiconductor in this course. It will be very difficult for us to go into operational point of view of semiconductors. So we will first discuss dielectrics, and then in next class we will indicate brief something about conductors. Okay, so we do not have a discussion conductor also in too much detail. However, we will not discuss semiconductor in this course. It will be very difficult for us to go into operational point of view of semiconductor. So we will first discuss dielectrics, and in coming classes we will discuss something about conductors. So we do not have to discuss conductor also in too much details. There is not much to discuss ideal conductors, but dielectric is very important. Why it is important? We will later study some of the devices known as capacitors, inductors, and transmission line. These capacitor, inductors, or transmission line, the value of capacitance and inductors or the characteristic impedance in case of transmission line depends on the material which is made up of. Okay, so you can actually enhance the capacitance by filling the material of capacitor by dielectrics. If you do not fill anything, then there is essentially air between the two plates of the capacitor. However, if you insert dielectric material in between that, then you are actually increasing the amount of capacitance. Okay, capacitance also show up in several other places. For example, in integrated circuit that you develop, there is a capacitance whenever there is any two dissimilar charges configurations. Okay, and the value of capacitance again depends on the insulating layer between the two charge distribution. So we will look at dielectrics in slightly more details, what is usually done. So we will introduce quantity called as polarization, and we will show how the flux density is related to polarization, and then this entire thing is related to electric field. Okay, we said that D is equals to epsilon naught E times electric field. Epsilon naught times electric field. Epsilon naught was the permittivity of free space. Now we will assume that we are actually dealing with dielectrics, and we will see that epsilon 0 has to be replaced by different quantity. Although, okay, so to begin with dielectric, we will not able to deal with dielectric again in too much of detail, but we will use some of simplified assumption that actually helps us to understand quantitatively how a dielectric would behave. Okay, a dielectric material which undergo room temperature doesn't really conduct electricity. If you are able to actually see inside material, then you would actually see that it is made up of molecules or atoms, right? An atom is consist of nucleus and electrons. Correct? So imagine that there is only one kind of atom, and that does an atom consists of an central nucleus which is positively charged and surrounding an electron cells, right? So we will consider a simplified model of such an atom. We will assume that atom consists of electron cloud. Okay, so there is charge in between, which is nucleus. However, the extent of nucleus is actually quite small, because nucleus diameter of that one is around 10 to the power minus 15 meter. Okay, whereas radius of valence electrons or electron cells that are there in the order of 10 to the power minus 10 meter. Okay, so this is order of 10 to the power 15, and this is order of 10 to the power 10. So you can see that that there is order of 10 to the power 5 magnitude difference between the extent of nucleus and the extent of electron cells. Okay, so we will assume that the cell of electron cloud that is around the nucleus is filled with a uniform electrons, such that charge density inside is uniform. So what is uniform charge density there inside the cell? Okay, so this is given by total charge Q divided by volume of cell. Assuming spherical cell, simpler to deal with this one, this is equals to 4 by 3 pi r cube, where r is the radius of cell. Okay, and this charge density of particular spherical cell. Now in ordinary matter would consist of many such atoms, and each atom can be represented in the crude manner of having a nucleus and an electron cloud around that one. Okay, ordinary what happen is that matter is electrically neutral, indicating that there is no force acting on any of these atoms, and that there is essentially no electric field inside the matter. The average electric field inside the matter would be 0. Of course, you have to remember that when the matter is at certain temperature, not equals to absolute temperature, there is some jiggling. You know, the nucleus and electrons have some amount of kinetic energy because of temperature, and there will be some elitations. Okay, this atom or molecule will be ignited a little bit. Okay, so there is a essentially small amount of electric field that is generated, but over the extent of volume that you are considering of matter, that you are considering, this electric field would be some random directions. So there is no net electric field, or the average electric field at on any particular direction will equals to be 0. Okay, now to such an atom, we will assume that the matter that we are considering is made up of only one type of atom. Okay, and there is a nucleus and there is an electron cloud like this. To such an atom, whatever happen, if I apply an electric field, okay, so I am going to apply an electric field along this direction. Once again, this direction I will apply my electric field. Then what will happen? Now I know that the nucleus, which is positively charged, would like to move along the electric field. Okay, and you would expect that the nucleus would move along the direction of electric field. Of course, because there is corresponding force that is pulling the nucleus back, right? There is restoring force that try to pull the nucleus back to its original position. The distance that nucleus would move would not be too much. It will be very small distance. This z is very small. Okay, and in any case, these insulators are such that the charge, the electrons and nucleons can be separated altogether. that is there is no free electrons, and electrons do not just come out and then just get separated. So because of this, the movement of nucleus towards the electric field in the direction of electric field will be very small. Let us consider, call the amount as z. Okay, the motion amount as z. So effectively what we have created is that nucleus has been pushed from its original position to a new position that is just away from its original position. Okay, so there is a charge now which is concentrated at Q, and there is a slightly electron cloud that is there. We will assume that the movement of this nucleus is so small, and there are a lot of electrons around this particular atom, and this electron cell has not really changed much. Okay, so we will make an assumption that electron cells or electron cloud has not changed, and this seems reasonable as long as the movement of nucleus is very short compared to its original position. So we will assume that z is very small compared to r. Okay, so there are no two force acting. We will see what happened. There are now two force acting. We will see what happened to and what is the value of these two forces. What would happen to the atom when there is an external electric field. Okay, now before we see what happened here, let us look at first picture over here, where an atom, and let us assume there is no electric field. So let's say after an application of electric field, nucleus has moved, but there is no electric field. The nucleus is at the center of electron cloud. What is the force acting on this nucleus? You can imagine in some gauze surface around the nucleus, okay, and then try to find out what is the force at particular center. So you can see that since the electrons are all completely surrounding the electric field and will be directedly, and they would all be coming in this way. However, because of symmetry, if you consider any small portion of electron on one surface of the cell, there will be equal amount of charge on the another cell. Okay, if there on one cell, similar will be on another cell. So there will be equal amount of charge on the electrons on one surface of cell, and there will be equal amount of charge on the another, indicating that there is no net force acting at the center of nucleus. Okay, so there is no net force experienced by nucleus, and nucleus stay put at that point. Okay, however, once the external field is applied, the nucleus moved to a slightly distant z, and then electron field we assuming to be unchanged, but which will now exert a different amount of force here, right? Because there is a symmetry which was originally there has now been broken. So because of symmetry has broken, the field that is exerted on charge q is now going to be different from the previous case. What we have created in this process of applying electric field is some sort of charge distribution in which the distance between positive and negative charge is some amount of distance. So there is essentially this kind of situation we have created, okay, where there is a positive charge, there is a negative charge, and there are these two are separated by a certain distance of d. Okay, now what we want is what would be the electric field because of such matters at any point in space. So what we want is how would we calculate the electric field at any point in space when there is a distribution of positive and negative charge in a particular way. Please note that there is not actually equivalent to what I am considering, in the sense that positive charge. So you can easily identified to be nucleus. However, the negative charge that I am considering is essentially the effective charge of electrons that is sitting over here. So there is effective charge which I am considering. Situations such as this, okay, two charges positive and minus are you now are considering, and you want to find electric field at some point P, far away from two charge configuration, is called dipole. And this is word which are talking about a pole in an older term for charge. If you study electricity and magnetism in your high school or in your first year of college, you would have seen that the like poles repel and unlike poles attract, right? Instead of telling you like charge repel or unlike charge attract. So this poles terminology used for charge is something that we borrowed from magnetics, where we have a north pole, a south pole, and since there are two poles standard of two, there is a dipole. This is two poles which are of opposite nature, okay, and they are separated by a certain distance d. Okay, and the idea is that we want to find out what is electric field at any other point. So this is the calculation is important if you want to understand what is happening to this matter in this particular case where the electric field was applied. We will begin by calculating the field at this dipole and then use that result to understand what is happening inside dielectric. Okay, so what we want is the field of the dipole. In order to obtain that, let us place a dipole charge at a distance from the origin, equal distance from origin along the z-axis. So this is z-axis and this is there we place two charges. Okay, one is at d by 2 distance and another is also at d by 2 distance from origin. So the total distance of 2 between the two charges. Now I want to find out what total distance is d. Now I want to find out the field at point P, which is in general given by r, theta and phi in spherical coordinate system, right? So in this case it is natural to use spherical coordinate system, so we will be using that. So at this point P, I want to find out field. Okay, so let us see what I can find out the potential by various means, right? How I can find out given charge. How do I find out the field? You can apply Coulomb's law when there is no symmetry, or a very brutal force method. You can approach finding the field by applying Coulomb's law. If there is some symmetry, you can use Gaussian law to obtain the field. However, in case such as this, there is neither symmetry nor application of Coulomb's law is simple. There is another method of calculating potential and then calculating the electric field. So this is how the potential and its delta operations help us find the field of some configuration where the two methods do not really work. So applying Coulomb's law is fairly difficult here. Applying Gauss law is even more difficult. However, going to potential actually is a fairly simple compared to these two. Why? Because potential is going to potential of positive charge and potential of negative charge. Okay, so positive charge, let us say, is located at a distance of r1 from this point P, whereas the negative charge is located at r2. Okay, let us also for our purpose, write down the distance from origin. So this distance from origin to this point P, let us call it R. Okay. So you immediately notice that R1 is less than R, which is less than R2, right? So you immediately notice this thing. So what we will assume is that R is very large. So you are going it very far away. This distance is very far away from this dipole configuration. So the angle that R makes is actually given by theta. If you will say, the angle made by R is given by theta, which is the angle in terms of spherical coordinate system. So this angle theta and this value R. Okay. So phi unfortunately do not really be required to represent over this here. We will not worry about phi. Okay. So this is the relationship between R1, R and R2. That is not this one that I know, that R1 is less than R and R is less than R1, R2. But there is any other relationship that I can find out. I turn out that there is a relationship that I can use. So to obtain that relationship, please note that this is going to be very, very important. You will see this one in antenna later. So it is very important that you understand this one. Since the distance are quite far away, right? So this point P is kept very, very far away from the origin. I can sort of consider that these three lines, this R1, R and R2, to be very nearly parallel to each other, and I consider them very nearly parallel to each other. This will work only when R is very large. I know that distance is d by 2, and I know that distance here also is d by 2. Now if I draw perpendicular from R1 onto R and draw another perpendicular from R to R, from R to R2, so I see that this is the extra distance separated between R1 and R. Because if you look at this way, if this length is R1, which is exactly equals to this one, this R1 and this R will be equal from this point. This is actually extra distance, additional distance. What is this additional distance? Well, you will have to find out what is the additional distance by looking at the angle. So you can see that the additional distance is going to be this L. So let us calculate this. If this is theta, this is 90 degree perpendicular, so we can calculate it. So cos theta will be equals to L by d by 2. Okay, then this distance happens to be d by 2 cos theta. So this is my extra length. Let us call this L in terms of d by 2 cos theta. Okay, so now which implies that this extra distance that differentiate between R1 and R is given by d by 2 cos theta. Similarly, length will be also equals to, this length will be also equals to d by 2 cos theta. Okay, in terms of this only theta. So you have R1 as R minus d2 cos theta, right? And R2, because R1 is less than R, and again R2 equals to R plus d by 2 cos theta. Now we can use all these relationship and find out what is the potential at this point. Okay, so potential at this point are theta and phi, and from there evaluate electric field. So to do that, let me first write down the potential at the point P. this point P. The potential at this point will be equals to q by 4 pi epsilon naught r1 minus q by 4 pi epsilon naught r2. Okay, I am assuming that these two charges are kept in free space. So we will consider dielectric in a moment. So this potential that I have, I put also the value of r1 and r2 in terms of r and d theta. Okay, so I put their values. Then now I can multiply them here, cross multiplication I have done, and find out this expression. And in numerator, if you will see, I will get this will get cancelled out. I will get q d cos theta. Okay, and in denominator I am having r square minus d by 2 square cos square theta. Okay, so if I assume r is very 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 large compared to this d, okay, so that is that dipole is essentially very short distance separation, whereas compared to this point which I am evaluating the field, then I can neglect this. So I can neglect this d by 2 square cos square theta because d is very small. D square is going to be even more small. So maximum value of this will d by 2 square, that will happen when theta is equals to 0. So even with that, since this assumption is valid, okay, so I can drop this term and then simply write this as 4 pi epsilon naught r square. Now this is the potential that is dependent only on radial distance and theta from the origin. Now this is actually important result. So far we have seen that potential for a point charge or a charge distribution are going to be 1 by r. In this case the potential is given by 1 by r square, which means that since electric field is derivative of potential, right, since the electric field is minus the derivative of v, we expect that electric gradient of d, the electric field would be 1 by r cube. And this is true. You can actually look at the expression of delta in spherical coordinate system and you will see that this is how you can calculate gradient of v. When you calculate, you will find out that our electric field is inversely proportional to q. Okay, so I just calculated here. When you differentiated v with respect to r, you will get this thing. When you are differentiating with respect to theta, it's there. Phi will be 0 because phi term is not there in potential equation. Okay, so now if you evaluate the other two derivatives, you are getting these values, and your electric field is inversely proportional to 1 by r cube. Okay, so this quantity qd over here, which is associated with distance between two charge and the amount of charge that is distributed at a distance of d. Suppose you are having minus q, positive q, and the distance is d, or separation at a distance of d is actually given by this. Okay, so distance d vector from charge minus q to plus q. Okay, and this qd, which is now a vector, is called a dipole moment. D is vector form. Okay, from minus q to plus q. So in terms of dipole moment, you can represent, for example, this particular r component as qd, and this dipole moment is typically denoted by small p. This is denoted by small p vector, and I can write down r component as p dot r hat divided by 2 pi epsilon naught r cube. Okay, and I can define this one. So the dipole moment is going to be very important, because we will now imagine that that dielectric material that we have is actually filled with such dipole moments. Okay, now do you see the relationship between dipole and the situation that we are considering earlier, right? You do you see the relationship between the two? However, here was our realignment of the charge, right? After the application of electric field, so charge got realigned, that the nucleus moved distance z away and electrons clouds was separated, so this movement caused a dipole to appear. So in case of matter, we will assume that all these are compared to have atoms, and when apply electric field in a particular direction, then there will be an realignment of charges, and then nucleus would move slightly towards the direction of electric field. If electric field is not very strong, okay, then electron cloud will just shift a little bit, although in the approximation that we are going to make, electron cloud remains the same and nucleus is moving. But in certain case, electrons which can move and then the nucleus essentially remain the same, but these assumptions essentially give rise to a situation where I have some positive charge, some negative charge, which are now distributed at a certain distance. So we will assume that the matter for a dielectric is now composed of such so many dipoles, and we try to obtain what is electric field. Now before we obtain electric field, we also want to ask one question, like how easy it is to realign the two charges. If I apply the same electric field to all these different material, would all material shift by the same amount z? Obviously no. It actually depends on the material that you are considering, right? So this strength is under which the movement can happen. Like, if you apply in an electric field, you easily the nucleus would move a certain distance z is captured in terms of what we call as. So situation is that I have originally the charge or the nucleus at the center and the electron cloud around it. The electron is uniformly immersed, okay, and has a distance of r. So it is like a cell of uniform charge distribution, and then I have a nucleus q under no applied electrical field, external field. There is nothing happening here. And then I have a nucleus. Then, however, when the external field is applied, the charge has moved small distance z, forming now a dipole. Okay. Now I want to find out what are the force acting on this charge q. So there will be one force because of external electric field. So this external electric field that I have applied. So there is one force, that is external electric field, okay, and this is called as Fe. And then there is a restoring force acting to balance out the movement, okay, because of the electron cloud. And if you evaluate the two, you will get some equilibrium value, and what can be used to relate the polarizability of the electric field. Let us consider that this direction of electric field to be along z axis, okay. Now I find that the force Fe, well, Fe is very simple. Force Fe is given by charge at particular point, applied electric field. Remember this in the fact that definition of electric field, right? So you can think that positive q as, or the nucleus as some sort of test charge or for the external electric field, and see how much force is gained and how much force is now exerted upon the nucleus, and that value will be q times E, okay. So this is external force. What about the restoring force? Now here where we are going to use our knowledge or use our expertise in Gauss law and try to figure out what is the force on that charge. So momentarily imagine that there is no charge q, okay, and the radius of red color in this green color sphere is z, although it is not looking exactly like a sphere, but please, this is sphere. So now I have this force that I need to calculate at point z. How do I calculate the force? I can first find out the field, and from the field I can multiply the value of q, right? Momentarily remove the nucleus and calculate the field at this point, and then multiply the field by charge. You are going to get restoring force. Now another thing that you will notice is that because of field is given by electron cloud, the field lines are also directed inwards. Field lines are all directed inwards on the sphere, okay. So consider a sphere of radius z. On that sphere, if you look at the electric field, those electric field will be directed radially, okay. So you use Gauss law and apply to obtain 4 pi. You are going to get 4 pi epsilon naught z square. Z is the radius of sphere, okay. So 2 pi z square is the surface area times epsilon naught er. I am indicating r because I want to emphasize that the radial electric field, there is a negative sign because of electric field is closing inward rather than spreading out. So this is the left hand side of Gauss law. This must be equals to total charge enclosed by this volume. How much charge is enclosed? Well, I know what is charge density. Charge density is q by 4 pi r cube. However, fractional charge enclosed by sphere z will be given by 4 pi z cube, okay. You equate 2, and then on the both side this 4 pi, this will get cancelled, and on the both side this z square will cancel this cube. I left with this expression, okay. So this is electric field due to cloud. Er is the electric field due to the cloud, and E is the field that is applied externally. Now now we have talked about dipole, and this is like a dipole thing, right? Because if you look at this qz, you can see this could be correspond to a situation where I have a positive charge q, negative charge minus q, and the separation of 2 is z, okay. Forget the sign. Negative sign is only indicating the direction of electric field. So this qz itself can now be related to dipole moment. So of what dipole moment? This is dipole moment of atom, okay. So previously we considered a hypothetical situation in which I had a positive charge and a negative charge separated by a distance. Now I have actually created a dipole inside a matter, and matter consisting of atom by making the nucleus move a distance of z towards the electric field, okay. So this qz that I am writing over here emphasize so much is actually the dipole, because the application of external field and this dipole is that of atom itself. So we will come back to that in a moment. So you would be more tempted to write qz equals to p, okay, and you will be correct. So we will come back to that a minute, because our idea is to still calculate the force, right? So that, what is restoring force? Acting, restoring force that is acting on nucleus at this point because of electron cloud will be equals to Q times ER, and the magnitude of restoring force must be equals to magnitude of pulling force. So I have Fe magnitude must be equals to Fr magnitude. Okay, so if you find and substitute Fe and Fr, you are now obtained a relationship between dipole P and electric field. We will do that. So QE is equals to Q is the left hand side, okay, which is equals to Q square Z. I am putting value of ER here. Q square Z by R cube 4 pi epsilon naught. Okay, in this equation I am cancelling Q, then this QZ is equals to 4 pi epsilon naught E, and this is equals to P. Okay, and this whole term would equals to some alpha E, which is called as electronic polarability. Okay, so this is electronic polarability because this is corresponding to a particular atom for a given matter. So this is something that you have find in material constant books and handbooks of material. Okay, so what is important to note is that the dipole moment P was actually directly proportional to electric field, and this electric field direct proportionality is consequence of linearity, that is electric field are assumed to be small, that even they are not going to disturb appreciably the nature of matter. Therefore the dipole density and or dipole moment will be proportional to electric field, and this breakdown if you go to stronger intense field, that if you apply a very large amount of electric field, then this relationship will break down and you will start seeing the dipole moment term being proportional to E square or E cube and so on, giving you a rich area called non-linear optics, because mostly this is found in optic system. So you get non-linear optics. We are of course not going to discuss that. For us, P equals to some constant time, electric field will suits everything. Okay, so that's all for today's lecture. Thank you.